Hogstye.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Hogseye. It has been a busy week as free agency is now underway. The legal tampering period has just ended for all of you listening on Thursday. Although a lot of moves are now going to be official, I like how the free tampering period, we know what's happening because basically they're telling us we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It's just not official until now. So, welcome to the show. We got Steve, who's been having technical difficulties. We've got Dave, who was sick and out last week. I'm the only one who's just doing normal, as always.
I've had all kinds of computer issues. Thank you, Microsoft. I appreciate it.
Right. At least you were smart and kept a backup computer.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that link I sent you will help. I don't know if you tried any of that or not.
Well, not in the past 30 seconds. No, I have
not. Well,
not.
Of course not. Not like now. I know that.
Yeah. In the future, hopefully that does help.
Hopefully, yeah. I'm going to throw this other laptop into the Gulf of Mexico.
Yes.
Is what I'm about to do.
Well, the unfortunate thing is you're never going to want to go Mac, and you'll never be able to figure out how to go Linux. So I really don't know what to tell you what to do at this point.
Well, I mean, get a new laptop to start with. Because what I've noticed about laptops is when it starts having weird problems like this, like I'm currently having, that means it's getting ready to meet its mate,
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, I had Dell. One of these reason why I hate Windows updates is one of these Windows updates wiped out this very computer to the point where I had to get a Dell technician to come to my house, to my office rather, to redo it. And so I'm just done with it. But I'm not done enough to get an Apple.
No.
See, that's the beauty of my Mac that I have. I've had this for almost going on 9 years now, and I haven't updated the operating system on it since for about 5 years now.
I know updated that. I've never voluntarily updated the operating system. It does it without my consent.
Well, Windows, you pretty much are forced to. You have to with Windows.
Right.
You have no choice with Windows.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Mac at least give you that option.
Yes.
And I'm on my fourth Mac since I, probably got my first one in college. One I broke. I was on me. It fell and I destroyed it. I cracked the motherboard. That's my fault. The other two, one of them still works just fine, and it's probably 15 years old. It's just like you said, Dave. You can't update the operating system anymore. So
no, God no.
Yeah.
Well,
or you can't do anything.
Yeah.
This computer that I'm using now, is at least 10 years old.
Yeah.
And of course, it's working, and the other one isn't.
Yes. I mean, every once in a while, there's a good model that just keeps running. It just you can't get new software.
I think this one may be dead, unfortunately, here because it's
Sorry to hear that, dude. All right, so we're gonna break from our little format that we usually do, where we do the draft preview stuff at the end of the show, because we have so many moves that we want to talk about with this team. Look, our buddy Nolan from Tampa wrote a thing about a draft preview about the edge rushers, so outside linebackers and defensive ends. We're not going to go into depth on it because, one, Washington's not drafting one of these guys in the first round. If Washington drafts a defensive end or any kind of edge rusher in the first round, I will probably pull my hair out of my head. I don't really know what's going to happen. That would be insane to me.
It would be football malpractice. Okay, what we're going to do, I'm just going to run through this list.
You want to just go through the names real quick? Yeah.
Yeah, we do like to preview this list, but we're just going to blow through it. So kind of the number one guy on the board is Will Anderson Jr. from Alabama, 6'4", 243. Tyree Wilson, Texas Tech. Miles Murphy from
Clemson.
From Clemson. Yeah, those are kind of the three sort of day one picks. And then the day two picks, Andre Carter, the second. Those of you who are Redskins fans remember Andre Carter. This is, in fact, his son.
Is it?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. And
because I looked it up, I couldn't find that out for sure.
I think it maybe I thought it in my head. I think it is, but maybe I'm wrong. But he's a little bit lower because he's at West Point, and it's tough to get out of commitments and stuff.
Yes, you're right. He is. He is.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, and so then the best edge rushers of the rest of the group, B.J. Ojolari, Isaiah Foskey, Will McDonald, Derek Hall. Those are some of the names that you might hear.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to read more, you can, it's in a little bit more detail out on the website. And so that is Edge Draft Preview. Thank you, Noah, for taking.
Yes. I would say go for Andre Carter II just for the nostalgia's sake. If he's there in the 4th round or something, why
might sell some tickets if nothing else.
Yeah. Buy a couple jerseys. Fans love nostalgia these days.
Maybe where's Dad's jersey?
Yeah. What number did his dad wear? Can you get his dad's number?
Well, if I had a computer that was fully operational, I could find that for you. But
yeah, that's on Pro Football Reference somewhere.
Yeah, I don't want to take a chance on my ancient laptop here. Sorry.
No, I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all, man. It's once your other laptop gets that age, it's rough. It really
perhaps
is.
This is something we should have looked up ahead of time.
Yeah, well, it just burned my head, I'm gonna look it up
99.
right now while we're talking.
He was number 99.
99. I think it's
there
taken.
You go.
Yeah, shoot. We could do some number swapping. Let Chase Young get number 2, like he wore in college. Do a whole thing.
I don't think defensive ends in the NFL can wear number 2.
Actually, I think he can wear whatever he want now. Can't they?
Yeah, they can wear number 2 now.
Is it?
With the new rules, yeah, they can wear number 2.
That's right.
Yeah. It's that weird thing they're doing. By the way, and I know you guys probably don't care, there's a quarterback from Ohio State now wearing number 33 in honor of Sammy Baugh, which is really weird and wild. So, I just thought I'd throw that out there since we're just talking about a jersey number thing. Quarterbacks don't do that anymore.
No.
But I thought that was neat. And I think eventually we'll see an NFL quarterback wearing a number in the 20s or 30s because they'll run at low numbers. All right, let's talk about all the moves the Washington Commanders have made. I don't even know where we want to start. Do we want to start with guys who are no longer with the team and go from there? Let's do that. So J.D. McKissic was cut after being injured all season for the most part. Kind of a shame because, he was a fun little pass catching back out for the last couple years. You guys remember he did that thing where he went to Buffalo, then he kind of didn't sign the contract and came back, and just unfortunate how that has worked out. I think we lost. Oh no, he's coming back. Okay.
Then all of a sudden my Wi-Fi dropped off. Completely died.
That's fine.
You're just having the best of nights, aren't you, Steve?
Yeah, he really is.
Peter's still sitting here saying doing the same thing.
Yeah. All right, so J.D. McKissic was cut. Cole Holcomb signed a 3-year deal with the Steelers. I was a little surprised by that. I haven't seen have you guys seen a salary number on that, Dave? I know
which one?
No, I haven't seen anything on that. Disclosed on that at all.
Yeah, I know.
I think it was like a 4-year deal. I think 3 or 4 years.
People aren't upset about that though, right? I mean, Cole Holcomb was okay. Nothing to write home about.
I mean, he's an average to above average linebacker, and they don't have anything to replace him with really. So that's the concern. So Cole Holcomb.
Weirdly, the coaching staff seems to not care about linebackers, which I just don't understand.
Yeah, Dave and I were talking about that for a little bit before you got on. It is always going to be strange how that seems to be the case here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Of course, the big story is that Taylor Heinicke is now with the Atlanta Falcons. He went back to his hometown there, 2-year, $20 million deal, because it's not really $20 million deal. I think it's something like 6.5, 7 guaranteed over 2 years. So pretty reasonable for a backup there.
Right.
But Heinicke moving on, tip of the cap to him. I said this on our Twitter. All he did was come in and give his best when he, needed to. So, some fans seem really upset one way or the other about Heinicke. I've never understood that. Like, how do you get mad about a backup who comes in and just does what he has to do?
He deserves a lot of credit. He was literally on his sister's couch.
Mm-hmm.
And he came in out of nowhere and played a playoff game. I mean, I like the kid. I mean, is he a Hall of Famer? No.
No.
But he's seems to be a great guy. The players loved him. He gave it, gave his all. I mean, that's all you can ask. I don't understand the hate for the guy. I really don't.
I've never understood. I'll say, like, and I don't think it's that big of a group, but the people who thought he could be a full-time starter or anything like that, equally, I don't understand that. I can see the skill set there wasn't what you need from your planned full-time starter. Great backup, good guy who can come in a game and is high energy. I like that. They signed Jacoby Brissett to kind of be the new backup. They're about the same caliber, but very different types of backups, and that's something we're going to want to talk about, I think, because I think that's interesting. But
and that's the one thing. That's one thing I've always noticed about our the petty aspect of our fan base is this, and the reason why Heinicke gets the hate is because of the Heinicke hive, the love that Heinicke got, and how much of it they got. You literally had both sides basically attacking each other on opinions about the guy. It's like, it's just, how dare you have that opinion? Well, this is how he really is. No, he's not bad. It's just like, you stop. It's just, I mean, you like him, you don't.
This is what happens. Like when things go badly, people start to argue.
Yes. People polarize very quickly and look for
very much.
Yeah, like you don't see the fans of teams that consistently win argue, amongst themselves very much. And it's this team, Washington's just been so beaten down that you're down to being polarized about things like Taylor Heinicke,
Right.
Sure.
Which incidentally, quality teams would never have been stuck with Taylor Heinicke for 2 years.
He would be a good backup on if he had been in, Green Bay, he would have been a fine backup for Aaron Rodgers for like 5 years and maybe played 2 games when Rodgers was out.
And by the way, I'm looking at his contract numbers now from Atlanta. What it really is a 1-year deal with an option, basically.
Gotcha. Right. Which is not surprising either.
No, it's not. They're stuck with him this year. He's not going to get cut this year, but next year it's at their discretion, basically.
Sure. And look, we talk about how the fan base gets really polarized about these guys. I think I fall more into the pro Heinicke camp than the anti Heinicke camp, but there's plenty of shades of gray here. Like you said, Steve, he seems like he was a great teammate, which that's something you really want. You don't want dicks in your locker room,
right?
Just generally speaking, you don't want guys who are gonna be divas or take up a lot of attention. I totally get that. Like, he's not that guy, so that was great. At the same time, not a good arm. Let's be honest.
Right.
Like, just not accurate. Or couldn't do a deep ball, and the height thing was always going to be a problem. So, he was always going to be a little limited. That's what he was. It's fine by I think most of us.
I mean, not being a huge wrapped up around the actual fan of the team anymore, I can say that I enjoyed watching him play football.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun to watch. He was exciting when he came in. Fun to watch. So, but let's focus on he's gone.
Right.
Who did they sign?
Right. So they brought in Jacoby Brissett, who, from what I've seen, kind of was their main target. It seems like I think that Heinicke and the team kind of knew that this wasn't going to happen anyway, that they weren't going to stay together here. So Jacoby Brissett supposedly was their primary target at quarterback. And for a backup, I would say Brissett and Heinicke are about the same quality. If you're going to give them a percentage grade with 100 being Tom Brady, they're both somewhere in a 60 range. They're not starter material, but they're not complete failures. And it's just the way they go about doing it. Heinicke was all fire and heart, and he's going to make gamble plays to try and get the ball down the field. Whereas Brissett is a ball manager, caretaker type. He's going to play it safe. He will dink and dunk his way down the field, and he won't turn the ball over. That's who he is.
Well, I don't think they're the same. I mean, number one, Jacoby Brissett's a lot bigger. He's a big dude.
No, I'm saying overall quality they're the same, just not style.
But you know, let me finish. Like he's played a lot more games.
Sure.
So he's a lot more experienced. I mean, are they at the same kind of ranking level? If that's what you mean, sure. Probably so. But I mean, I would argue Brissett probably higher just because he's played a lot longer.
I
has
think
a lot more experience.
I think when you look at Brissett to Heineke, where Brissett is just a lot safer with the ball, where you have but Heineke had you just go by career-wise interception percentage was 2.9, where you look at Brissett was only 1.5. Granted, Heineke had a higher touchdown percentage. Not by a terrible amount, 4.1 to 3, but outside of that, they're both relatively equal in yards per attempt, right around 7 yards per pass. Now Heineke does put up more yardage thrown, but in terms of you had to look at the turnovers he makes.
Absolutely.
And that's been the whole. I think it was last year, one stretch of the season, he averaged like a turnover a game almost. It seemed like. And that's something Brissett doesn't do.
Right.
When you look at their overall rating for their career, you have they're pretty even on 85 and 84, but last year alone they were almost like dead even as well. So yeah, I mean, when you go to QBR, and that's the newest rating that Sports Reference, that Pro Football Reference uses on ESPN, that's where the biggest disparity is, and that's where they take into they take more of a calculation in with completions and so forth.
See, I don't like QBR because they don't. They claim that it's accurate, but they won't release the formula. Like I've studied the formula for quarterback rating, so I can kind of believe in it because I know what it is. But this QBR is a bunch of numbnuts that ESPN doing this stuff won't tell anybody, and so I really don't like QBR very much.
Well, the one aspect I like about QBR is that they actually take an account for just because the quarterback throws an interception, if that interception was because the receiver, the ball was in the receiver's hands, and he literally just bounced out of his hands and was intercepted. that doesn't count nearly as much against him as him just throwing a clear pick.
Number one, how do they account for it statistically and objectively? And number and number two, how do they account for it statistically, and how is that an objective standard?
Yeah,
I think
they're involving the reason why it's a bogus stat, which is what PFF does, is they take subjective evaluations and then turn it into numbers and tell people it's objective, and that's not statistics. That's why I don't like it.
Well, I think PFF goes a little further in that, because when you look at ESPN's when they do that, I mean, if it's a clear pass that was accurately thrown and the receiver clearly drops it and it becomes interception, I mean, that's what they look at. They don't look at, like PFF, they go in, I think it's like the quality of the ball thrown. And
I get it, but still a subjective evaluation that they're turning into objective stats.
Right.
Sure.
Look, unless you're saying definitively if the receiver tips the ball, we count that as 0.55 of an interception rather than 1 or something like that. I understand what Steve's saying. There's no quantitative or definition here.
I mean, to each their own. I'm just saying that's what I'd say. Now, I think
I get that.
So I think one weakness. First of all, I think Jacoby Brissett should be starting, and there's no reason why he shouldn't be starting in Washington. But more than that, I think where Heineke does have a bit of advantage is scrambling.
Yes.
Sure. Brissett is not the scrambler that was Heineke. So
he's a definite pocket guy. He doesn't even roll out that often.
Right.
And look, that's kind of my point is I think, and I haven't looked at their win-loss records, and I don't always put that on quarterbacks anyway. If you were to ask me which quarterback can give you a chance to win a game, I would say it's about even. It's just how are you going to win it? Jacoby Brissett is a guy who will win you a lot of games if you play good defense, you run the ball, and you kind of just played safe with some simple throws from him. Heineke is the guy who he's going to win his games with some clutch fourth quarter. Oh no, I'm they're blitzing. He gets out of the pocket, gets a first down there. He makes a key play here and there, and that's how he wins you a game. It's a question of how they go about it. That's the real difference in my mind.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think the odds are not going to be great with either of them. But
I mean, am I the only one that thinks that he should be starting over a dude who's had 16 NFL passes and was a 5th-round draft pick?
I just simply look at it that, well, you have Brissett here with the experience. You go into quarterback competition. This is something, hey, Sam Howell, this is for you to win. If you can't beat him out and Brissett beats him out, yes, he starts week 1, in my opinion. I agree there. But
yeah, they ought to be an open competition. Neither one of them is worthy of automatic, automatic number 1 status.
I mean, no, I think it's an open competition, but I also think you do have to look at who's going to have a higher ceiling as part of that when you're like doing your analysis as a head coach, of course. I mean, if you look at Brissett and you say, well, he's 30, we know exactly what he is, and he's really just another stopgap. Okay. Do you think Jacoby Brissett is suddenly going to pull Geno Smith and become a stud quarterback?
No, I don't know if Geno Smith is going to pull a Geno Smith next year,
exactly.
for that matter. No, of course not. I don't think anybody would think that Jacoby Brissett is anybody's long-term answer. But if you're talking about a coach who's going into his 4th year at a team that needs to win, is he really going to worry about it? And I don't. People think, in our comment section, think I hate Sam Howell, and I don't. I just don't quite understand the devotion, either through the fans or the coaches. I mean, I don't get it. What is he showing?
He's been okay. I think it's mostly a gamble on the coach's part.
He's been okay. He's not been terrible. He's not been bad, but
I just think some people look at what he did that 1 year in North Carolina. He does have the upside. And then you saw what Jalen Hurts did last year. People thought he was going to be a good player, but they never thought he was going to be an MVP runner-up and take his team to Super Bowl in like year 2 of starting. Not to say Sam Howell's going to do that, but it gives people that intrigue. Sure. Could he be that guy that does, could do that too?
People thought that
probably not.
Too.
Well, sure. I mean, you get all kinds of quarterbacks like that.
This is what the nature of being a fan is.
Sure, right. Absolutely.
And I respect it, and that's what's fun about sports. When you're a fan of a team. I'm just saying, objectively, I don't really get it, and I think that Ron Rivera was more just kind of supporting the guy he had on the roster more than anything else. Yeah, he's our number 1. What's he going to say? No, this guy sucks. Yeah, we're going to bring in somebody. That's not what he's going to say.
I mean, look. I've also thought, depending on how the draft shakes out. Now, I don't want Richardson necessarily, but if somebody like Hooker is there, maybe in the 2nd round, that's worth a shot too. Just take gambles on guys this year. What's the worst that happened? It doesn't work out, and guess what, Ron? You're going to get fired if you can't figure out how to win, 10 games. So, take some shots at quarterback. Who cares? Now, I just don't want them in the future because of that either.
Sure. Now, the one thing I'd be curious about though is that if, as the pro days come up beside that, if Richardson reminds Ron more and more of Cam Newton, who he's had his best years with, does he sit there and go, I don't care what we need, offensive line, corner, I'm taking this guy, I'm doing whatever I can, which I think would be a mistake, to be honest with you. But
sure, look, I look at Richardson as a project, and you don't take projects that early.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And look, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Obviously, they're talking about some of these guys in the draft. But like I said, I'm okay if they gamble on another quarterback in this draft too. Just be a little conservative with those gambles. But
what happens if you have like Anthony Richardson available at 16?
We were just talking about it. Well, we would both pass.
I stepped away for those of you who can't see, which is everybody but Alex and Dave.
Yes. We were just saying.
What I said to Alex was that if as the offseason goes on more, Richardson continues to remind everybody, including Ron Rivera, of Cam Newton, where he had his most success with, does he sit there and go, well, I don't care what I need in this draft. I want this guy.
So basically, I unintentionally backtracked because I've had all kinds of like technical and family drama and going on here, and
yeah, we saw those sparklers like flying around your house or whatever that was. Yeah.
I have kids, people. I mean, sometimes
that's fine. Yeah.
But okay, but wait, before you pass on this, so you hit Anthony Richardson, so CJ Stroud is going to be gone.
Yeah, sure. He'll be gone.
Bryce Young will be gone.
Will Levis, I mean, I think he'll maybe be gone. I'm not a huge Will Levis fan, but he looks like he fell out of the quarterback factory. So if Will Levis is there at 16,
maybe.
But I don't know. I think Ron in year 4 will be less apt to do that. Because especially Will Levis, who's a project.
I do.
Yeah.
You know, well, I don't care what anybody says. Will Levis is a project.
Well, so I was saying the one who I would maybe consider is Hooker in the second round or third round, something like that, because I think that's where he's projected right now, is somewhere between second and third round.
Want to hire Hooker there? A little bit cheaper Hooker?
Yeah, why not?
You know, you talk about a guy who looks like a prototypical quarterback, right? Yeah. Like he has that look, but he's probably gonna need some work. Like I might see that as a gamble worth taking. But yeah, you know, I think what I would honestly do if I were Ron Rivera in the first round, I would say, all right, Eric Bieniemy, you're my new OC. This is your pick. Tell me who you want.
You know what? Well, they're never going to do that. Number one, don't forget who owns the team. What I would say, if it were me, we are only going to draft offensive line, period, dot, the end. I don't care what you say. We are drafting offensive line and find the best one, and that's what we're going to do. I don't – yes, we're going to get – I stepped away. Hopefully you guys didn't go through the signings offensive line.
No. We were still talking quarterback.
Why don't we – let's just get to that now. Okay. And so – They did re-sign to the easy ones. They re-signed Tyler Larsen, who's the backup center, who did end up playing a lot because every center.
And he was pretty good as a backup.
He was. Yeah. I thought so too. Nick Gates was signed 3 years, $16.5 million. There's 1 year. There's your starting left guard, and then Andrew Wiley.
So the rumor is Gates might be a center.
Yeah. I meant to say center. He might be the starting center, and then Andrew Wiley is probably your right tackle.
Yes.
With Sam Cosmi maybe either being benched or moving into the inside. 3 years.
It's going to be Cosmi is going to get the first shot at guard. Wiley. Yeah. That's why. Thinking.
I mean, the first shot. I mean, either that or he's going to be on the bench. But Wiley, $3 or $24 million, he's your starter. Yep. So I think if it were me, I mean, yes, they've improved. I don't know if you got. I don't have a strong opinion about Gates or Wiley necessarily, but I would draft the best left tackle they could find.
Sure.
They definitely need Leno. He's got to go.
I'm not as hard to get rid of Leno. I think he's just an average left tackle, which is, not the worst thing on this line at this point. He was the hot girl in the ugly chick school or whatever you want to say, last year.
King of the Fools.
yeah, he's the king of the fools, sure. But yeah, I mean, look, I would rather them draft a tackle or even a left guard, in the first round, somebody who you can plug in as another one of these starters. I think the Wiley thing, our buddy Mark Bullock did a good write-up on Wiley, and I think it'll be very interesting to see what they do with the right side of this line now, because both Wiley and Cosmi are – one thing they both have in common is they're very good at, like, kicking out to the edge. They're good at getting to the second level in the run game. Neither's like gonna knock you over like a Brandon Scherf did or a Trent Williams. They're not, that raw muscle guy, but they have some mobility. So it'll be very interesting to see what they do with the run game with that respect. I think the thing Bullock was kind of hinting at is expect a lot of screen pass plays with those two out there, because that'll be kind of a bread and butter thing with them. So that'll be interesting. I know Wiley I saw somewhere he gave up 8 sacks last season.
Your buddy Mark Tyler that you had a conversation.
Mark Tyler
with.
did that.
Yes.
Yeah.
He came. Yeah, he was talking about he had a blown block percentage a 4.4, which ranks 7th worst.
Mm.
And he let up, he had 8 accepted penalties, which is tied for 6th worst. So,
Right.
I mean, he's not real high on the Wiley, but, you know, when I looked at these other articles and some of his other numbers, and it's like what this guy Tom Childs, who writes for KC, even mentioned. You know, it's almost unfair to kind of hold Wiley too much on the sacks and the blown blocks the way that Tyler mentions it, which is a fair point. Don't get me wrong, but the play of Mahomes, he extends plays. He holds on to the ball a long time.
He's an improviser type. Yes.
Yes. So having a block for a quarterback like that, you know, it could tend to make you seem a little worse than what you are, because like Charles, he said he held his blocks for about 2.5 seconds per block, which is not bad, which is actually just above average. I think most quarterback time, I think it's above league average, like 2.7, I think, or something like that. I saw that number before. So, but and he has versatility to kick to the guard we talked about, but his athleticism, be able to move within a short area, is actually pretty much underrated. I think they got a nice player at right tackle for that, and a guy that they could kick in the guard. But I think that's going to wind up being Cosme's job to lose, because I don't think Bieniemy is going to want to move Wiley from the right tackle spot. And so I think there are some numbers that kind of do a little injustice for Wiley because of the quarterback he played for. Obviously, I'm not going to make Mahomes look like a bad quarterback. It's just the style he plays.
Yeah.
You know, so it lends to that.
We saw that here way back when RG3 was the quarterback, and then they went to Kirk Cousins, because Griffin was that same kind of improviser. He held on the ball longer type, whereas Cousins was a don't hurt me, I'm getting the ball out of here as fast as I can, even if it doesn't help the team.
And the pressure did go down.
Yeah.
Pat was sacked 26 times last year, which is not a ton. And if Wiley was responsible for 8 of them, that makes him responsible for a little more than 30%. A little, of the sacks. A little less.
And keep in mind, Mahomes' natural movement out of the pocket is always to the right side. He's always rolling to that right side, so obviously that number is going to be a little bit higher. As well,
but right about Wiley. Okay, I told you I don't have a strong thing about him. I'm just trying to present another alternate point. You may be right, but I guess the overarching point to me is this coaching staff seems to go kind of try to find cheap answers to weird things.
Sure.
You know, I mean, because Wiley, I'm not saying you got to go sign, the biggest free agent on the market, but they weirdly go cheap on linebackers and offensive line, and I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's fair to say that Wiley is in the second tier free agent offensive line.
That's all my point was.
Yeah.
I think you have a legitimate point about Patrick Mahomes. He runs all around. He's constantly extending plays. He's being Mr. Hero, and that does get him sacks sometimes. Russell Wilson, 55 sacks last year. Same exact thing. You know, he's playing the same game. So So will Wiley be an improvement over the Drek they had last year at right tackle? We'll find out. I don't know.
I mean, at least marginally, at least. I think at least that, you know.
I think that, and it might be a philosophical thing for this coaching staff. You know, plenty of teams don't want to overspend on free agents. You know, they could have I think it's safe to say the best free agent lineman this year is going to be Orlando Brown, right? He's probably
name, if nothing else.
Yeah.
But he's also, it's the name, but he's also been to a couple Pro Bowls now. He's not maybe Trent Williams level, but he's probably the best free agent this year.
I just think it's kind of funny because Washington went from a guy who's going to be in the competition for Hall of Fame,
right,
and a multi-time Pro Bowler with a pretty quality center in there, and the new coaches came in and just blew it all to hell. They didn't convince let's not relive Trent Williams and all that. But I mean, the bottom line is they let both those guys go, Williams and Scherf go.
Sure.
With no plan.
With no plan whatsoever.
No plan at all.
Zero plan. Just go. You know, and they didn't. What they replaced him with? You know, Chase Ria was a good call at center, but he's always hurt.
Right. You know, and he's 30 now. Like he's it's about done.
I strongly fault Ron Rivera. His heat's on him. I strongly fault him for his handling the entire offensive line, and I think it's ruined his tenure with the team, to be honest.
I mean, it hasn't helped, and you know, I think that they are, like you said, they're not going elite with these guys, but if they do the draft approach, and let's say they draft a left tackle 1 overall, that'll help a lot. And maybe you kick Leno inside to guard for this year, or that's at least more of an option now. You know, I don't know how good he would be at that position, but, you know, draft and develop is kind of also been lacking with them when it comes to these linemen. You know, Saahdiq Charles, I think we all kind of thought could have been something at one point, but nothing made.
Could have been a contender.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, one of the things, and we haven't really talked about this part yet, they did just let John Maseko, the O-line coach, go today. Or was it yesterday that they did? Maybe
today.
I think it was today.
It's not kind of like trading in your 1997 Dodge.
Well, the dude's 72, so you got to go older than 1990. Yeah.
20 years, so that's old. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the car served you well. It wasn't
We're going
that good.
Model T on this one.
Okay, well, fine.
So
okay.
it sounds like what happened here, just for context, is he and Bieniemy have kind of tried to see if they can work together, and they realize that philosophically they're just too far apart on how they want to do things on the O-line. So it's kind of just let's just say, you know, shake hands and part ways kind of situation. It does make sense, you know. He comes from the Air Coryell system that Washington has tried to run for years. Bieniemy comes from a West Coast system. You know, this guy wanted a bunch of maulers. It seems like Bieniemy is trying to get more mobile again. So, you know, a lot of these little things do make sense to me, at least just from the outside in. I'm not surprised that this happened. I guess it's just going to be a question of who do they bring in to be this O-line coach now when you are trying to change systems, because I think it's kind of important to find a good coach who understands what Bieniemy's trying to do.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, in terms of my draft thing, obviously they're not going to do that. I don't know about you guys, but you know, like, you know, our weekly draft road to the draft column that no one from Tampa does shows me that everybody thinks Washington's going to draft a corner.
Yeah,
which I don't understand in any capacity. I mean, there's so many other needs in corner. I mean, granted, you need slot corner, but you have a number 1 corner already.
right?
And you have Kendall Fuller, who you're paying. You know, I don't really get the love for corner.
I think it has to also. From what I understand, it's a good corner class is a big part of it.
Good tight end class too.
Yeah. It's a good running back class too. I mean, I saw one guy say there's like 15 starting caliber running backs in this class or something ridiculous like that.
I wouldn't go 15.
Yeah.
Okay,
But,
so but
you know.
I stepped away though. I don't know where you left off in the reading of the names of the.
Well, so the ones we gotta cover still. Let me do the quick and easies that we haven't talked about. Reeves got a tender to stay after making the Pro Bowl as a
Does
special
everybody
teams
know what
guy.
that means? So he's a restricted free agent, and so this is the way of control. He can't get away. If they tender him, they've successfully secured rights, basically. Yep. So he will.
Well, he can still get an offer from somewhere, but they have the right for the first.
He'll be back if they want him to be back. He'll be back.
Yeah, and
which obviously they like him.
What would be the compensatory for that though? I would assume probably like a late. Like obviously day 3 type pick, like
I don't know if it's any pick.
6th.
I don't know if it's any pick. I'm not sure actually.
Yeah, this one I'm not sure either.
No.
I'm not sure there is a pick, but I wouldn't know that. I'll know for next time. I'll let everybody know.
They also gave F.A. Obata a 1 year up to $3 million is what I saw deal to come back for.
That one I
playing.
liked.
Yeah, I like that one too. He's a good depth guy.
Yeah.
It kind of shocks me that depth guys get that kind of money now, but it is the NFL. So, all right. So let's talk about the big two that we haven't talked about.
Did you say McKissick release? Did you?
Yeah. I started with that one. Yeah, you might have been away for that moment. Cody Barton got a 1 year deal to come in. He's a middle linebacker from Seattle. It sounds like an interesting pick from what I saw. A lot of people seem to think that Barton could be a starter, but he fell out of that kind of role in Seattle. So I'm kind of
be a starter by default on this roster.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too, especially with
Alex,
Cole Holcomb gone.
You would start if they signed you to be a linebacker on this roster.
Yeah. I would be like London Fletcher in that last year where he couldn't really move because his knees were shot.
Just stand there and do this.
It's there was a child's game where you just stand there and wave your arms in the air. If you hit somebody, they were out.
If you run directly at him, he will stand there and try to stop you from running.
Right.
That's about as
he still could stop him if you got in his range. He
can't take a step, but yeah, if you got him right there.
Maybe one good step. One step.
That's it.
Yeah. Dave, did you have something about Cole Barton there, or you were?
Actually, because he had a rough start to the year last year. I think it was like week 5 or 6 is when he got himself back in the starting lineup, and he never let go of that. He never let go of that spot again for the rest of the year. And he's actually an improvement over what Holcomb was, because he's a shorter tackler. When you talk about Pro Football Reference, they talk about missed tackle percentage. I mean, he's under 1%. For Cole Holcomb, he was nearly 6%.
Right?
Yes.
Like, that's his thing.
Yes, and he is very quick, sideline to sideline. So against the run, he's definitely a much better linebacker inside the box than what Holcomb was. And he moves laterally so much quicker than what Holcomb ever did. Now, the one part now granted, he had a coverage rating of a 94 for a linebacker. You want that preferably. Use a low 80s, high 70s for a good coverage linebacker.
And just so we explain this to people, that is basically what the quarterback rating was against him when he was playing, or when they threw in his general direction.
Right. That's yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So 94 is not good.
it's just not good, but you also had 126 rating in Holcomb.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously, if you're going to rely on Barton to cover a running back or a slot, you're done. You're toast. No, I mean, I get that. But at least if it's against a tight end, he's a little more valuable than what Holcomb was, and so at least he can be a little bit more disruptive. Pass rush wise, I mean, they're relatively the same on that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I think Barton is a guy with some decent upside, but they still got to get themselves someone like a Bobby Wagner or draft a guy in here to get to that middle, and I would still love to see them go after Caden Ellis myself. I mean, he's a guy that can play that Buffalo nickel they like. He's a guy that actually could, play that third safety role, be the coverage linebacker, and he could be on there on passing downs. But I mean, I'm digressing away from what we're talking about here. But yeah, they still need to get that guy in the middle, which they don't have. So.
No, I'm with you. Steve is frozen, and it's a very good picture on my screen. So I'm just making sure. Check. Doing a quick text to him there. The thing I like about it is I do think they haven't had a real good run stopper this entire time. I think Davis improved in that area last year, but we got spoiled when we did have prime London Fletcher.
Right.
Like he was a true run stuffer type.
Yes.
And they haven't had that since. But yeah, they definitely need at least 2 more guys. I know they love David Mayo for some reason. This staff, puts Mayo in everything.
Right.
But they need one sure starter, maybe two, or rotational guys, everyone. I mean, you play enough nickel where you could argue it could be two solid backups, and you just are rotating them in. But yeah, they need more depth just in general at linebacker at this point. I think the question
I watched a video from our buddy Rick Snyder right before we came on. I was sitting here eating dinner, and he said it was one of his 2-minute things he does.
Right.
And he said this team just doesn't value linebackers, which they don't.
No,
they really just don't value linebackers. And we all saw them running, 4-2-5 most of the year, and it wasn't necessarily. It was because they literally could not get 3 linebackers on the field more than anything.
Right.
I mean, true linebackers, and it's almost a misnomer, on this team, because they really want, call it whatever you want. Like Jamal hated the term Buffalo nickel.
Right.
But really, what they really want is a guy who's kind of a tweener, who's can play in the box, but he can cover, and he's good to run. I mean, in this sort of like, it's almost like a hybrid kind of do everything dude, and that's kind of what they want. They don't really want 3 linebackers, I don't think. But the problem is, like, they don't even have 2.
No.
They don't even really have 1. I mean, Jamin Davis is a bust they fell into being a pretty good outside linebacker. Cody Barton, I mean, I'll take your word for him, Dave. I haven't had time to look at him at all. But it's a couple of things in this coaching staff befuddle me, and this is one of them.
Oh, and if it's a do-it-all linebacker they want, they need to give someone like a Caden Ellis a call then. Because that's the mold they want. I mean, he's not a middle linebacker by no stretch of the imagination, but he gives you what you want.
Or draft the best linebacker in the draft with 16.
I mean, it's really tough to find a guy who's a perfect Buffalo nickel in terms of, because what you're looking for is the in the box true strong safety type, and those guys just don't exist that much. Like, how many guys out there are like 6'2", 220 safeties and really can play that role well?
Well, Collins actually wasn't too bad when he finally sat in that role once he committed.
Well, if you go back in the Wayback Machine, and you go to what I said and wrote when Washington signed Collins, you will find I said that the Giants used him as another linebacker. He was solely in the box guy. That is what he was best at. That's probably why the Giants didn't want to keep him. But you take a guy like that and you put him in coverage, and just why would you expect any different? Play to people's strengths.
Right.
Imagine that. What a concept.
Especially when it comes to like figuring out how to utilize safeties like that. Do not put a guy in single high if he can't play single high. Do not play cover 2 if your guy's an in the box strong safety. I hate to say it, but like it seems like football 101 stuff sometimes, and they or overthinking it in the professional level. Utilize guys like you said, utilize the strengths. So that, I mean, look, hopefully they sign at least one more linebacker, and I hope they draft somebody high. I don't know about
like Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner would be nice.
Bobby Wagner. So Dave wrote a column. You got to check it out this week. That was published on Monday. That was a free agency, his free agency preview, 10 players to watch. Bobby Wagner was one of them.
Right.
Imagine the concept, bringing in a highly accomplished, big-time Pro Bowl level linebacker. Imagine that. Could they afford him? I don't know. You could make room for him. If you call somebody brilliant like me, you could figure out how to make room for him if you really had to.
Imagine that. How much is he really going to cost? He's like 31. I mean, I can't see him like breaking the bank either.
Well, and I haven't had time this week to redo Washington's salary cap with all these signings and stuff. So I will have that for next week.
Yeah. Well, since you're bringing that up, let's talk about the last name, and that's the biggest name, of course, for the week. The Daron Payne signing. He's not going to play on the tag. They gave him 4 years. I think it's $90 million.
Yeah, I got the details here. A couple months ago, I predicted 18 million average annual value.
Right.
Turns out, and the reason I said that is that was about what Allen got. Turns out this is about 15, basically. But so his contract He's got a 10 million. First of all, it's a 4-year, $90 million contract. It's 90, not 60. So yeah, it is. So it is more than Payne, but 90 million, $28 million signing bonus, 59 million guaranteed. Now, what the guarantee is, it's pretty player friendly. It's pretty pro player here. It's the base salary in 23 and 24 is fully guaranteed, and then a portion of the
Oh, we lost him.
We lost Steve in the middle of him giving his whole breakdown, and he's not even going to know. Dave, he's going to talk the whole time, and he'll never even notice. And you know I'm right about that. That's why.
Yes. That will be.
Yeah. So we will vamp while we wait for Steve to come back, and then he'll say, "What did you miss?" I was surprised they got a deal done, Dave. I really was. I kind of assumed that maybe once Snyder and the sale thing was sorted out, they might get something done. But I was real surprised they got a deal done with Payne this early. I'm happy they did it because it gave him some flexibility in terms of making some of these other moves, because he goes from a $18.5 million hit to 10 this year. So, that basically gave him the money to get a backup quarterback, which is good. But yeah, I think it seems like he really is happy to, did you see the video they posted?
I saw that. I saw the video.
Yeah, it was a great video of him coming in. Steve, how long did it take you to realize that you lost connection?
Oh, I knew it immediately. Okay. I think I went down in mid-sentence. All I was trying to say when it went out, because I've had all kinds of technical problems here tonight, was that they could cut him in 2025 and save like a gnat hair of salary, but the real big savings would be in 2026. Okay. So, but they're stuck with him no matter if they like him or not for 2 years, probably three. And so it's a fairly player-friendly contract. It's not exactly totally team pro team.
And we always phrase it as they could cut him at that point. They could also renegotiate. That we should always make that clear to people. Like, we're not saying
out another year, add a little bit more guaranteed or something like that.
Here's what you guys really need to know about contracts out there. How many years? How big is the signing bonus?
Right.
Because that stretches out over years. How many years of base salary are guaranteed? Mm-hmm. If you get past 2, it's a very pro player contract. Right. There's very few NFL contracts who are guaranteed more than a year. And
especially for non-quarterbacks. Even for quarterbacks, I know. But
even quarterbacks is usually only 2. And so for Payne to get sort of 2.5 years at signing, it's pretty pro player. So that means his agent went to him and said, "Look, y'all franchise tagged him. You like him, pay him. And they did it. So, but that's what to watch. Don't pay so much attention to the top end value. It's signing bonus. How many years of base salary are guaranteed?
Correct.
And, that's the important thing.
Right. And we were talking a little bit, Steve, while you were gone there about
again for the 8th time in this show.
Yeah. We were talking about how the nice thing is with the $10 million salary for this, or cap hit this year, it did free up some good money for them to make some of these other moves.
It freed up about $8 million.
Yeah, which is basically Jacoby Brissett's entire salary.
Yeah, right.
I mean, so they spent. I haven't looked at Cody Barton's contract yet.
Yeah, I haven't either.
So I don't know what. Well, actually, no, I didn't mean Cody. I meant Andrew Wiley. Cody Barton's easy, 1 year. Andrew Wiley's 3 year, $24 million. So it's possible that there's a big signing bonus there. He may have some money. So my guess is that it's Brissett and Wiley probably got the money. And Nick Gates, 3 years, $16.5 million. So his cap hit's probably, I don't know.
I'm actually surprised his was that high, honestly.
It's probably a $4 or $5 million cap hit.
Yeah. From what I thought, I saw that Wiley's cap hit's probably around $8 million this year, something like that.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't looked at Wiley's.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid to do it from
from this computer
the technical problems.
From your World War II era computer that you're cranking as you talk.
My other computer has woken up. In case for those of you who are wondering out there, my other computer has finally decided it's done updating after an hour.
Oh, good.
It's good.
Here's what you need to do, Steve. At 4 in the morning, turn on the computer. and then it might be ready by the show.
I'm going to seriously look for new computers like tonight.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Maybe go with a different brand. I don't know.
I've had I've had different. It's like HP is the one that really went just kaput on me in dire circumstances. This one
I shouldn't get badmouth
Dell.
HPs too much because I have a brother-in-law who works there, but they are garbage.
And the two I have now are both Dells, but not because of loyalty, just because that's what I happen to get a good deal on.
Sure.
Well, Dell, you kind of get the most bang for your buck. They're not the most expensive, but they're not the most reliable.
Right.
But for what you pay, for and how they perform, it kind of goes relatively hand to hand.
You just need to be ready to buy a new computer every 2 years.
Dave and Alex know this about me, but other people don't. I'm very, very cheap.
Yeah.
I don't like spending money, and so if I can find a good deal, I'm all about it.
Right.
And that shows in the situation I'm in now.
Right. I mean,
maybe we'll get a GoFundMe for you, Steve.
Yes. Let's do that. So if you want to, if you like this show,
right,
and you like what we do, because we all spend a lot of time and effort in this, and I'm slaving on this every night. I'm not even a fan of this freaking team anymore. I'm slaving for you.
But you love doing the shows, and you
love doing the show. So what I'd ask of you, we only need $1. That's all it takes. It's $1.
All right.
That's all.
Send us $1 for eternal happiness.
And we're gonna play like the fabulous gemstones here on the Hog side tonight.
Yes. Good show. I can't wait for that to come back on.
And then I unplugged myself in my rant.
Yeah, so I saw that. your headphones came unplugged there. I think we covered all the moves, unless one's happened in the last, hour since we started the show.
Oh, you said Jeremy Reeves, right? And
yeah,
you said
we mentioned that.
Danny Johnson.
Oh, we didn't say Danny Johnson. Yeah, Danny Johnson's back for a 2-year deal.
That's right. And then they signed Cam Dantzler, claimed him off waivers, got that.
Yeah.
And then Drawn Payne, Marcus Kemp. I don't think we mentioned Marcus Kemp last week.
No.
And I thought we did talk about him last week.
Maybe we did.
Yeah. He's your Cam Sims replacement. We talked about that. I do remember that. Yeah. Now, because Cam Sims is a free agent and probably gone.
Now back to the Daron Payne deal though. Who's the odd man out now? Either Young or Sweat. We're not going to re-sign both of them.
How do you say that?
Because I just don't see them investing. I know you put an article out there to show how they could do it. I just don't think
I need to redo that to see what the real numbers are.
But I just don't think
up the cap percentage pretty high to re-sign them all.
I just don't see them doing that, especially since when Young was out, they still had an effective pass rush rotation on the other side. It wasn't that bad.
Chase Young reminds me of LeVar Arrington. LeVar Arrington was a guy, he was a linebacker, not an end. I mean, I know that. I'm not saying that. But LeVar Arrington was drafted number 2 overall. Wasn't it number 2, number 3?
Yeah, number 2 overall, yeah.
All the talent in the world. A bit of a freelancer. Clearly had physical and football ability. Never really lived up to it in Washington because he just couldn't get with the program. What you just said, Dave, was very insightful, which is, and that's kind of what Chase Young is, athletic ability, all that. But what's his impact? When he was out for 3/4 of a year, Washington's defense got along just fine, and it didn't improve when he was in there.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought, you guys remember, I always thought they overdrafted Chase Young.
Sure.
So if it were Montez Sweat is not Lawrence Taylor.
No.
But he's also, I think, a successful first-round draft pick. Between the two, I'd probably, if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick Montez Sweat.
At this moment, yes. I think it's interesting that they're basically, if they don't give Young the 5th-year option, they're basically forcing themselves into we're going to have to re-sign one of you to next season, and that's that. Yes. And we'll have to move on afterwards.
I could go into details about Montez Sweat's contract, but I'm afraid to do so, considering my status.
Totally understood. Totally understood.
We'll save it for next week.
Yeah.
Maybe we see a draft day trade.
Yeah, could be.
Can you imagine though? It'd be a revolt among Washington fans if you traded Chase Young for like.
I don't think there would.
Actually, you know what? I'll be honest with you. I really don't think there would be either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he has as much of a following as some people think he has. I mean, he has a lot of fans. Don't get me wrong, but
I think he kind of is a guy who bought into his own hype a bit too much.
A little bit.
And I don't think it's normally good for these guys to go to their hometown because there's too many dudes around him and all of that. But what really turned me off last summer when we found out he was filming commercials instead of going to main camp.
Yeah.
This rubbed me wrong, man. What's this?
Orlando Brown's off the board. Bengals.
Okay, Dave is holding up his phone to the camera, to our camera on our recording device here. It said Brown signs 4-year deal with who? Who was it?
Cincinnati.
Bengals.
There you go.
Yeah.
So he's off the board.
So forget all that about Orlando Brown.
Yep.
I'm thinking I think that guard Broderick from Georgia might be that calling card at 16.
Maybe.
So. Would they have the guts to draft a guard in round 1?
It's not like you're doing the top 5 pick like they did with Scherf. You know, I think I'm okay if they go guard at 16. It's not sexy, but yeah, talent is talent. I'm okay with almost any offensive player in the first round, honestly. If they go guard, if they go tight end, I know Dave, you're a big fan of love the tight ends. Maybe not wide receiver, maybe not running back.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't have a clue how long we've been on the air here since I've been disconnected.
We are actually right about 1 hour.
I was wondering, is somebody keeping track of this? Or we just
I'm watching. Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do in the draft, but we'll get into that when we get closer to the draft, of course.
But let me ask you guys this.
All right.
Best move of these free agency moves to include the cuts, to include the signings. Best move, worst move.
All right, I will go first. It's probably not going to be the most popular answer. I do think going after Andrew Wiley, as he's not great. I think that's fair, but at least that you are saying we recognize we need to fix this line, and here's a step in that process. It's going to be we need 3 or 4 guys process. We all know that, but this was at least a first step in recognizing that.
Replace the 97 Dodge with a 2004 Honda, but at least
sure. But it works.
There you go.
Oh, for me, it would have to be if they are truly wanting to develop Sam Howell and truly want him to have that opportunity. The best move was to let Heineke go and bring Brissett in as that backup veteran because I'm sorry, but if Hal goes out there has just one mediocre first quarter, you know what's going to happen in the stands. Mm-hmm. Heineke's name would have been chanted if he was on the sidelines, and and that messes up the psyche of a young quarterback. You don't need that. Give him time to develop. You don't need that kind of controversy. And Brissett brings not just leadership, he brings the capability to start. So he's still going to push him. He's still going to give that competition. But it's not going to be at that Heineke level, though. So they're real serious about how. I mean, I thought that was a better move.
I thought that was going to be my move, too, for slightly different reasons. I mean, I think Jacoby Brissett can and should start over Sam Howell. There's no reason to start Sam Howell. So at least they found a guy who can be a bridge quarterback. So that was mine. And in terms of the worst one for me, I say this knowing that I haven't studied him, but I don't totally understand Cody Barton at linebacker. That one I don't get. So that would be my worst signing, but that comes with the caveat that I haven't really studied him.
Funny, I would say their worst move was even letting Cole Holcomb go just because they need all the talent at linebacker they could keep. If they had said, all right, we kept Cole Holcomb and we signed Cody Barton, I'd be like, okay. This is a plan. It's not a great plan, but it's a plan.
It's a plan, yeah.
But this seems like, hey, we're replacing average with probably average
again. You just replace one apple in the bucket with another apple in the bucket.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
I don't know where that analogy came from.
I don't know. I've never heard that analogy.
Me neither. It's off the top of my head. This is me
Dave, what's your
babbling.
worst move?
It's off the top of my head, I guess. It's with Gates. I mean, he's
Yeah.
coming back. He's 2 years removed off that major injury. I thought they gave him kind of somewhat of a significant contract too.
Yeah, I was
And you're
surprised by their size.
bringing in a center that's coming off a major injury, hasn't stayed exactly healthy to back up or compete with another center who hasn't stayed healthy and he can't stay on the field.
Right. Well, they also, Dave, don't forget, they also re-signed a backup center who wasn't able to stay healthy and stay in the field. So there's that.
They've got a whole string of centers, all of whom are going to be in the training room. Brilliant, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. They'll be working out together and getting healthy.
Congratulations for a job well done.
Yeah, right.
All right. I think that should wrap up this show. There's no other pressing things we need to talk about. If you want to hear about the whole ownership thing, you should listen to what Steve and I did for It's Just Business, because we talked about the whole ownership situation a little bit on there. And we don't need to rehash that because nothing new's come out since then. All right, guys. We will see you all next week. Later.
See it.